Welcome to the JP8 report. This is James Pierce with the JP8 report on a very busy news day, episode 335. And the president just kicked off a news conference, so my numbers are probably going to go way down. Hey, for all y'all that listening in, thank you very much. Sorry for the slight delay. I'll tell you about it in just a second, okay? Because it was pretty interesting what I just noticed just a second ago. As we get started with the JP8 report, don't forget to follow the page by clicking the follow button, and then also click the thumbs up like button, and then engage us on the chat. You see retired Rob 53, aka Padre. He put an American flag in there. I'm going to do the same thing. Follow suit with some support for our president and he's going through right now. I put an American flag in there just now. Alrighty, so we're getting going and stuff. So before I get into any of this, so what I was just doing was in Texas they have to publicize all names of people who vote in the primaries, and they don't put their addresses on it because that'd be doxing, right? Or how they actually voted, like who they voted for, like the 30,000 people running for lieutenant governor. Who they vote for is just they voted in the Republican primary, or they voted in the Democrat primary on each day they vote, right? Or if they send an absentee ballot. So I just happened to be looking. Since I'm a precinct chair 104 in Coryell County. I just happened to look at the ABBM. I'm like, hey, this would be pretty cool to check out, see how many Republicans actually sent in a mail-in ballot since early voting started. And matter of fact, there was 49, if you were wondering. And then I said, let's check on how many from precinct 104. Because that's my area, right? So I filtered it, the 104, and there was 3 of them in there. 2 of them had the same last name. The first name each one of them was different, and their voter ID number was 1 digit off of like a 12-digit number. They were 1 digit off, and they were mailed in one day after the other. So I'm like, okay, and that could, what are the odds, right, of them being 1 digit off with the same last name, right? So I called my party chair and I sent them a screenshot of that Excel sheet so they would know, and that because it's all got to, and he's supposed to send it up to the tax assessor collector because you got to make sure this stuff is right, because they will. It may be the Republican primary. It may be the Democrat primary. I might as well go back and look at the Democrat one now. Might as well, right? And but to make sure people legitimately vote in our primary election, hands down, there is no room for people to actually flaunt the results and fake it. Okay. Because once they get away with it one time, they'll say, oh, this is too easy. Let's do it again. But let's try it with 3 names instead of 2 names. Right? And that's exactly what happens. All right? But that's what I was doing. I just got off the phone with them 2 minutes after 8. If you agree with me calling my party chair about finding that, give me an American flag or give me something in the chat. And let me know how you feel about the whole situation. Because voter identification is voter ID verification and identification is extremely important. And I also agree with the very limited uses of mail-in ballot, right? All right. So, but you never know. It could be legitimate, all right? But just to be sure. Right. All right. So a couple of things were going on this morning. I did introduce the JP8 report. Asked y'all to follow me Thank y'all for everyone that's tuning in so far. I fixed my X account. No, I didn't. Man, it still didn't fix on me. Okay, well, people watch me on Rumble, and I realized on Facebook and ScrewTube, they hardly ever pay tune and watch. Today, I get a whole bunch of people watching, but hardly ever. All my like 99% of my audience comes from Rumble, hands down. I stopped sharing it. I do live so they can see it, but I don't share it out anymore, and until I get some type of way Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs. Yep. Thank you. I got that already ready to go out. But okay, so before I get to all that breaking news, you know what? I'm gonna hold off on. I'm gonna do this all out of order right now. I'm gonna go to all the breaking news. That's what's going on. The big breaking news, besides the Supreme Court ruling, was that President Trump is. It's one page. Wow. President Trump. I got this from Reuters. I saw it on Fox News a while ago. Trump is going to travel to China on March 31st through April 2nd. It says U.S. President Donald Trump will travel to China from March 31st to April 2nd. A White House official said on Friday, setting dates for a highly anticipated encounter amid tension between the world's biggest economies. Trump is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping as part of the extended visit, as the two sides weather to extend a trade truce that paused the terrorist escalation. And said the official who declined to be named while discussing details have not been publicly announced. Well, they are publicly announced now because I'm talking about it, right? But I got that off of Reuters, which I heard about it on Fox News TV channel. All right. So toward the end of March, the president is going to be very busy. And then the next thing, okay, before we get to my America 250, the president lost a case, and it's not as bad as people make it out to be, but he lost a major case in the Supreme Court 6-3. So the president called the ruling a disgrace, and I understand where he's coming from on that. You can look at it as a couple of different routes, okay? One would be from not the Supreme Court. They only interpret the Constitution and the existing laws. Look at it as why does Congress make so complicated laws that they're so hard to interpret? Does that make sense? If you're listening, say something to me, because that is a really good point. Is why does Congress make laws that are so hard to interpret? Because if they are reading the U.S. Code, section 191 or 280 or whatever it is, right? It's not a 280 agreement, but and excuse the cough, it's still there. So why can't they make a 5-page bill, make it simple, concise, easy to interpret, and easy to execute, and make it like 5 pages, maybe 10 pages at the most, but people know exactly what to do when that bill is signed by the President of the United States. They do these stupid minibus and omnibus and supermajority 10-link long bus bills that cost trillions of dollars if they're signed and stuff. They'll insert a sentence in there, and they'll change the whole makeup of the bill, and people start voting aye on it and not even realize that they just screwed themselves in the country and the president and everybody else, because that one little sentence is in, just so they can get that one little senator from the state of Hawaii to vote aye. and not even understand the ramifications from that. All right. The second thing that they could do, that first one is even better. The second one, I heard a constitutional / economics lawyer on Fox. Can't remember his last name. He teaches at Berkeley, but he was saying that why don't they do the second reconciliation bill that they were promising the Americans? Do one now and codify those changes and make them into law so that the president is covered. Because when you do a reconciliation, everything's got to be budget related, not policy related, but budget related, numbers, cash, Ben Franklin stuff, okay? It's all about the Benjamins, right? So taxes, tariffs, anything deals with the budget can be reconciled inside a reconciliation bill. So that would be a really good way to go. But the ruling that was made by the Supreme Court, while the president dislikes the ruling because, he wants to win all of his cases, and I would like him to win all of his cases. I would like to win everything I do, but there's only one winner. There's not 15 winners. There could only be one, and sometimes you're not that person. That's why I'm saying that they need to make bills simpler and also do that reconciliation bill. Makes complete sense. But what they were saying in the Supreme Court ruling was that the tariffs that he used under the Emergency Powers Act was the part that didn't agree constitutionally what he was doing. That's what they said, right? The president interpreted something different than what the Supreme Court did, and it could be how the lawyer that argued it before the Supreme Court argued it himself. If he was just the Solicitor General and not a specialized lawyer when it became the taxes and tariffs and not knowing what he was saying, that could be a thing too. You got to look at it that route also. But what they were saying was that the way he enacted the tariffs under using the Emergency Powers Act from, I believe it was 1977, was not constitutional, and that he would need to go back. And like this lawyer I was listening to, I cannot remember his name, but he's a really good lawyer. He said, it may take some time, but go to each country one by one and use the other acts that are applicable for tariffs from overseas tariffs. And a tariff is a tax outside of the continental boundaries, outside the boundaries of the United States. A tax is a tax that's inside the boundaries of the United States. So that could be fixed in that route. So this Drian Depeche, Ashley Oliver from Fox News wrote this about 9:04 a.m. just after the opinion was released. It says, in a 6-3 decision, the justices invalidated Trump's tariffs. Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Brett Kavanaugh all dissented. Justice Roberts wrote, hold on, I got okay. So my wife is finishing a table runner for our Lincoln Reagan dinner tomorrow night that I've been advertising for weeks on our podcast. And she set up an ironing board in the living room so she can iron it out to get the quilt ready. But she had to go to the ladies' room, and she said, "Look, I'm going to come back out here. Cat is going to figure out how to get on top of the ironing board." I'm like, "Yeah, probably, sure." I'm in here. She just sent me a picture of a cat on top of her ironing board. Okay, it's too funny. You got to laugh at it. Okay. Okay. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the framers gave the power to the Congress alone, notwithstanding the obvious foreign affairs implications of tariffs, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the majority, and whatever may be said of the other powers that implicate foreign affairs, we would not expect Congress to relinquish its tariff power through vague language or without careful limits. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments in November in the case which centered on Trump's use of International Emergency Economics Power Act, it's called IEPA, to enact his Liberation Day tariffs on most countries, including a 10% global tariff and a set higher on so-called reciprocal tariffs on certain nations. All is true. In April, Trump declared the U.S. trade deficit a national emergency, and lawyers for the administration have cited that declaration as the legal basis for invoking IEPA, which allows the president to respond to unusual, extraordinary threats when a national emergency has been declared. The High Court agreed to take up the case last fall after lower courts, including the U.S. Court of International Trade and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, blocked Trump's attempt to use IEPA to enact import duties. Lower courts pressed the Justice Department to explain why Trump invoked IEPA when other more narrowly tailored statutes enacted by Congress were specifically addressed tariffs, including laws that cap tariffs at certain levels or set timeframes subject to congressional review. The law authorizes the president to regulate importation during the declared national emergency, but it does not mention the word tariffs, an omission that was at the heart of the hours-long argument before the High Court in November. During the oral arguments in November, justices pressed administration lawyers on whether IEPA applied to tariffs or taxation powers, and what guardrails, if any, would limit the executive branch should the High Court rule in Trump's favor. In arguments, so I forgot a lot about this stuff too, because a lot of stuff has happened since November, like Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, right? Okay. In arguments, lawyers for the administration told justices that IEPA allows the president to regulate importation of goods, which they said is the practical equivalent of a tariff. But justices, including Trump's conservative appointees, appeared skeptical, pressing the administration on whether there ever has been an instance in which statute has used that language to confer the power Trump seeks. Other conservative justices questioned whether an economic equivalent to tariffs, such as sanctions, embargoes, licenses, and quotas, could be used to the president under the law. Lawyers for the Trump administration have argued that in lower courts that the IEPA allows a president to act in response to unusual, extraordinary events and in cases where a national emergency has been declared. Trump has claimed that deep and sustained trade deficits now amount to a national emergency and is sufficient to trigger executive powers under the emergency law. The Justice Department urged the Supreme Court to allow the tariffs to remain in place, warning that denying Trump the tariff authority under IEPA would expose our nation to trade retaliation without effective defenses. Plaintiffs countered that in the 50 years since its passage, which was passed under a Democrat Congress and a Democrat president. Okay? The law has never been used by a president to impose tariffs. They also argue that by the administration's own admission, the trade deficit cited by the Trump has persisted for nearly 50 years, a fact that undermines his claim that it is an unusual, extraordinary trade emergency. They erred at that one. They argued that authorizing Trump's use of IEEPA to continue his universal tariffs would drastically expand executive power at the expense of other branches of government. Judges on a 3-judge panel for the U.S. Circuit Court of International Trade voted unanimously earlier this year to block the Trump tariffs from taking effect, ruling as Commander-in-Chief Trump does not have unbounded authority to impose tariffs under emergency law. The U.S. Court of Appeals under the Federal Circuit also rejected the use of IEEPA. All right, so that being said, there is recourse for the president, okay? And they did say there's recourse for the president. They just got to find a separate code that would apply for those tariffs to take effect. Just that the IEEPA one is not legitimate. So they have their work cut out for them. It's not drastic. I wish I could, I don't know if I could. I've seen some podcasters put news broadcasts on their screens. I'm wondering if I could actually do that, but I'm not going to try right now. Canada will play for men's hockey gold after rallying past Finland in a tense Olympic semifinal. Okay. In other news, it's always something that the president keeps trying, and there's always that one person that hits him when he's down, right? And I don't know what he can do. I have one solution, and I don't think anybody would like it. But first we have to, and I wouldn't advertise it too much, but I'll tell y'all, wait till we win the midterms, because we got to win the midterms first, right? And because the Democrats are they're going to bust the filibuster if they take power. So, don't throw no stones at me. You can comment all you want in the chat. Let me know how you feel. What do you think about this? Okay? Take the ball away from the Democrats. Okay? Judicial wise, you do it two ways. You can do legislative wide, limit bills to 50 pages or less, or single issue bills. Like a friend of mine is running for Congress right now, Will Abel. He insists single issue bills. I completely agree with that. Okay. 2, single issue bills, 50 pages or less. Okay. And I understand that, like Pentagon bills, some of that stuff you can't get away from. Okay. Next, this is the controversial one. Go ahead. Oh man, how do we do this? Okay. So, if we can expand a majority in the Senate, and they go up from 53 to like 55, which would be cool, right? Okay, so I would just take, man, I can't believe I'm going to say this, compromise with the Democrats, right? If we expand by 2 seats and go up to 55, what you need to do is, besides cough, nuke the filibuster. Just get rid of it. Make Puerto Rico a state. The Democrats would love that one, right? And then, in exchange for doing that, expand the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals by 5 courts, so to take the load off the justices, and expand the justices in the Supreme Court by 5. I know that's controversial. We haven't done it since the Civil War, but that might be time to do it. But if we can negotiate this, and I'm not talking about, it has to be, well, I would prefer 5 very conservative justices on there, but expand the field some, and see what we can do. But first, we have to talk with each other in this, and expand what we have in our country. All right. But first, I would nuke that filibuster, and I would pass legislatively. Single issue bills have to be brought through, and make sure that they have that 72-hour read through on it too before you vote on it. I mean, what do y'all think about something like that? Do y'all think that would be a really good thing to just talk about? I mean, everyone seems to want it. The left wants a lot of this stuff. The right wants some of this stuff. If we work it out together, maybe we can all get what we want and stuff, right? Oh. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me get this real quick. Okay, I'll be right back. You understand? My sister's writing me, okay? Okay. Okay, that was cool. That was my sister Tina up in Fort Worth. She's cool. Okay, so where was I going at? So yeah, expand the U.S. Courts of Appeals, expand the number of justices, and then admit. Okay. All right. So it seems like a really good solution that we have. But the ball isn't on my court. The ball is in Congress's court. So we'll see what they want to do. I've already extinguished 30 minutes of this podcast talking about the Supreme Court. I cannot believe that. Does anyone have any comments on what we're talking about so far? Because that was a really, I mean, I've done 31 minutes talking about the Supreme Court. So a lot of stuff can happen, right? And then the more economic news came out also was that the fourth quarter GDP was much lower than they were expecting. They were expecting a 3% growth rate in the fourth quarter of the U.S., and it came in at 1.4%. But at the same time, you got to look at it, right? There's 2 other factors that went in with that one too. Congress couldn't get together and make a budget. The budgets are due September 30th. Because that's the last day of the, man, news keeps coming. Trump ashamed the U.S. Supreme Court and deeply disappointed by terrorist slapdown. Okay, that's from the New York Post. But you have two houses of Congress that can't get together and make a bill that they can pass by the 30th of September. And I'm not talking about the Democrats saying the White House won't make an agreement so we can. No, the Senate and the House are supposed to come up with two separate bills. And if they're different from each other, they got to go in the conference. And then when they have an identical bill on each side, they pass it and they send it to the White House. That's not what's happening here. They're holding our government hostage on what's going on. It's just right now, we have another partial government shutdown. 750,000 people are not getting paid because Chucky Schumer over there in the Senate is crying his eyes out because he wants illegal aliens to have warrants issued on them, and he wants ICE agents to not wear masks when they're on an operation. So rioters and protesters can wear face masks, but federal agents aren't allowed. This is getting crazy, ridiculous, and you want to wonder why our country is at a standstill politically. It's because these guys will not get along whatsoever. So, back last year, there was a 43-day government shutdown. 43 days. That's 4. That's 40, 41, 42, 43 days that the government was shut down, right? So what, and our GDP came in at 1.4% instead of 3%. Also, you got I'm slowed to the race. That's my term. Jerome Powell, he is the chair, the outgoing chair of the Federal Reserve, would not influence his board of governors to do a more an increased interest rate markdown than what they've been providing. Instead of doing a half a point or 3/4 of a point, they were keeping them steady. That slowed the economy. These guys have nothing better to do than punch it at the president to make him look bad. That's all they want to do. And the president keeps trying. You have a lady, she has a Supreme Court case, Lisa Cook. The president said that she broke the law. I mean, when is breaking the law not breaking the law? This is ridiculous. She took 2 mortgages out. They got pictures. They got documentation that she bought 2 houses, primary residence, just like Shifty Schiff out in California. He doesn't even actually live in California. This is absolutely nonsense that we allow this stuff to happen in our country. We have to reform our judicial system. We have to reform our financial system. And the best way is get this Mr. Kevin Warsh, I think that's his name, into the Federal Reserve so we can help the president out with economic activity by getting the interest rates further down than what they actually are. 1.4% GDP does not cut it, but you can't get higher if you close the government down for half of the GDP window. Because a quarter is only 90 days, and the government was closed down for 43 days. And if that thing would have persisted very much longer, it would have broken to the Christmas shopping center, and it would have been a whole lot worse. We would have had a negative quarter of growth probably if it would have persisted. So we have lots of problems in our country, lots of problems. All right. There we go. Okay, so where I'm at. Okay, Abigail Spanberger. Let's see. Before I go there, how many of y'all are on Rumble Premium? Because if you're not, I'm gonna read something to you real quick. Okay, you probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Rumble Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform, no pre-rolls, no interruption, just the content you came for. Plus, premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos and behind the scenes drops and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium. And the promo code is STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. All right. Thank y'all very much for letting me read that. Also, I've been using Rumble Premium for several years now. All right. So if I can use it, you can use it. All right. So let's get on back here to the podcast. State of the Union is next week. All right. That's next Tuesday. The Democrat response is the Secretary General of Virginia. The Democratic People's Republic of Virginia. Abigail Spanberger, she's going to deliver the Democrat response to the State of the Union. And then Alex Padilla, the senator from California, the one that can't identify himself, that nobody knows who he is, that he got taken down. He got taken down at a news conference with Secretary Newsome. He's going to deliver the Democratic response in Spanish also. So, you got to give it to him. That's a hard speech for anyone, regardless if you like them or love them or whatever, right? I remember several years ago, Marco Rubio was given the Republican response to Obama's speech, and he reached over and grabbed a bottle of water and drank it on live TV. I mean, you see me drinking a glass of tea right now, but I'm not an elected senator representing the whole Republican Party. He grabbed that thing, took a couple of swigs on it, put it back down, and went finishing off his 18-minute speech. That was something else. But, yeah, so Spanberger and Padilla are giving the Democrat responses. I don't know if they're going to be in the same location or in two separate areas, okay? So they'll be at that. And then to go along with that, maybe Miss Spanberger can talk about how a circuit judge in Virginia just ended. The circuit judge issued an emergency injunction blocking what Republicans call an unlawful April 21st redistricting referendum. I don't know. I know she's going to appeal it. It's going to be appealed. But right now, it's statewide injunction. So at first, last week, they were saying it only applies to Tazewell County. Well, this circuit judge said, no, it applies throughout the whole Commonwealth of Virginia. Oh, man. So what's at stake is right now you have 6 Democrat, 5 Republicans in 11 congressional districts. What the Politburo in Virginia wants to do is they want to make it 10 Democrat and 1 Republican, right? But the law says you can't. There's a time frame that you got that you can't start the voting when pending judicial action or something like that. It's in their constitutional Article 7, right? Well, let me read some of this in, so we make sure we're all on the same sheet of music. A Tazewell County Circuit Court judge on Thursday, which was yesterday, granted an emergency injunction blocking what Republicans call an unlawful April 21st redistricting referendum while the case is heard in court. Chief Judge Jack Hurley issued a temporary restraining order barring the state and local election officials from moving forward with the planned vote. The move handed the plaintiffs, in this case, the Republican National Committee and the National Republican Congressional Committee, Congressman Ben Klein and Morgan Griffith, a brief reprieve in a high-stakes fight to reshape Virginia's congressional map ahead of the midterms. In his ruling, Hurley found the plaintiffs have an extraordinarily high likelihood of success on the merits, including their claim that the referendum violates the timing requirement, that's what I was just talking about, of Article 7, Section 1 of the Virginia Constitution, because early voting is set for no sooner than 90 days after the January passage of the House Joint Resolution 4. So, February, March, April. So, they passed it, and early voting starts March 6th, right? And you're supposed to, according to our Constitution, have 90 days from when the last I went up and the governor signed the bill. You have to be at least 90 days past that part to have an election for early voting to start. Makes sense. Hurley also found that the ballot language, particularly the phrase restore fairness, is likely misleading and violates the Constitution because it would lead to a voter to believe he or she were doing something unfair by voting for the proposed amendment. The order states that the equities of this case warrant temporary relief for the limited purpose of preserving the status quo between the parties pending a hearing and a motion for a preliminary injunction. What do y'all think about that? That makes perfectly clear if you're actually looking at what's going on, and if you read the Virginia Constitution, you know, like they said in the Supreme Court thing a while ago, was that it looks like they didn't read between the lines and cross the T's and dot the I's, and we got caught, and that they got to look for a different route. It looks like the same thing happened in Virginia. They didn't realize that they had to wait 90 days, and they took an account of election day, right, for the special election, but they didn't account for the early vote on the first day you can actually vote. That's VOTE. So you can vote 6 weeks from election day. That would be voting. A vote on March 6th is the same as a vote on April 21st, and that's what they were getting at. I think they have a really good shot at defeating this referendum at this point in time. The order remains in effect until March 18th unless modified or extended. Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones pledged to immediately appeal the ruling in a Thursday evening statement. My office will immediately appeal the ruling issued by Tazewell County Circuit Court. These arguments are already before the Supreme Court of Virginia in the proper form to consider the arguments, which has set a schedule for receiving arguments and has justifiably allowed the vote to proceed during this time. The legal challenge marks the latest turn in a months-long battle over a mid-decade redistricting amendment advanced by Democrat lawmakers earlier this year. The GOP injunction filed Wednesday in Tazewell County Circuit Court sought emergency relief to stop state and local officials from moving forward with the planned vote while the case is still litigated. So, what's it? Jay Jones, the speed demon guy that shouldn't be the attorney general, says it's being appealed. So, a good source where I went to find this at, it's called the VirginiaMercury.com. That's the news source I got the article from. Okay? So, it's a good article. I think the Republicans have a very good chance of winning this case because it makes sense. Because when doesn't a vote count? When you cast a vote, that vote is a legal vote counted, cast where you're doing it at. Like, I'm planning to go vote in on Sunday with my wife after church. We're going to go vote. Okay? Man, my voice is all messed up. I'm so sorry. I might need to go see a doctor about that one too. All right. So the next thing on my list is red state auditors, red flags, Democrat governors concerning spending on luxury expenditures. This is about Andy Beshear in Kentucky. If you watched me this morning, I read like 3 paragraphs and set it aside and said, I wanted to go through the rest of this with y'all this afternoon before everything broke apart about the Supreme Court and GDP. Kentucky's Republican auditor Allison Ball spoke to Fox News this week about a report she put out flagging concerns about lavish spending in the state's executive branch headed by Democrat Governor Andy Beshear, who is widely believed to have presidential ambitions down the road. Ball issued a report earlier this month outlining spending by the executive branch in fiscal 2025 entered into the state's system and flagging issues she believes demonstrates extravagant spending of tax dollars that needs to stop. The concerning expenditures include $183,000 in out-of-state travel expenses involving a $7,600 limousine in Germany, $17,000 dinner at a Kentucky distillery, and $360,000 for 75 people to attend a 2-day conference within the Commonwealth. You're going to get a kick out of this next part. We saw some really excessive, really worrying and questionable expenses. For example, one of the things we saw is that the governor and the tourism cabinet spent about $338,000 for a nonprofit called First Saturday in May. So the people who are not from Kentucky, like me, but I know, the first Saturday in May is when Kentucky Derby happens. So that the money actually went to events for VIPs to come in and celebrate the observance of the Derby. Look, I may not be from Kentucky, but my daughter lives in Louisville, and she tells us the first Saturday in May is always fully packed. You don't need to advertise it, not one iota. I'm telling you, it's a waste of money to do this stuff. They could have spent that $338,000 somewhere else, because these rich people that come to see the Derby, they don't care about advertising. They already have it. They already have it on their calendar because they do months and months in advance. They rent Airbnbs all over the city. Every hotel room is rented out. You see campers all over the place. Uh, and Fox News, Trump initiates 10% global tariff. I'm sure it's going to come over my phone really quick. Okay, so Ball says the spending data was all entered by the executive branch into the Commonwealth's EMAR system, and while she understands elected officials need to spend more on security than typical citizens, she categorizes much of the spending she flagged as luxury items. I'm absolutely think that the governor needs security. We want him to be safe. We don't want anything to happen to our elected officials. But this is the time when you look at, okay, are you spending an excessive amount? And I think $7,000 for limo service in Germany, $5,000 to navigate an airport in Switzerland, hotels like in Beverly Hills and Aspen. We even found expenditures for hundreds of dollars for something called Caribou Club, which is a private club in Aspen. Why is the governor of a state going to a private club in another state? So these expenses are essentially luxury items when you're looking at them and at the amount of money being paid. Fox News reached out to Brashear's office but did not receive a response. Wonder why, right? Ball said it is no surprise when elected officials push back on reports like hers, but my job is about transparency. Ball noted Ball's report noted $39 million in spending by the executive branch advertising arms in various departments, over $7 million in out-of-state travel, $23 million in state travel, and over $16 million in trainings, conferences, food, and trade shows. She said it's a budget year, and this is when the General Assembly is actually crafting money that they're going to be appropriate through all levels of government. And what they're asked us for is early in the process that they wanted to know, okay, what is the executive branch spending its money on? Which is a legitimate question to ask, right? Brashear told CNN last year he was weighing a 2028 presidential run, as many predict he would be a formidable candidate given his popularity governing as a Democrat in a deep red Kentucky. After something like this, you got to really wonder what he's actually doing, right? So if that's something, look at this next article I'm about to read. This is a candidate for the Nebraska Senate. He's a Democrat, right? Oh, I grabbed the wrong paper. Hold on. This guy's name is Dan Osborne. He's an independent, but he has deep ties to Democrats. Has faced criticism for funneling a significant amount of campaign funds to his family members. Just like, what is that girl's name in Missouri, in St. Louis? She was a congresswoman. Across both his failed bid in 2024 and his current bid in 2026, Osborne, his wife, daughter, and sister-in-law have raked in north of $370,000, according to the FEC. The money originates from Osborne's campaign and his affiliated political action committee, the Working Class Heroes Fund. In July, Osborne, who is trying to oust incumbent Pete Ricketts, Republican from Nebraska, faced heat over his FEC filings that showed his campaign made 6 payments to his wife Megan, amounting to roughly $19,000 between April and June. If you're James Carville and you're running, you hire your wife Mary Madeline, which she's a Republican, he's a Democrat. I don't understand. That's one thing. Pierre Nolan, a longtime Nebraska political strategist, a former executive director of the Nebraska Republican Party, said, after the payments came to light, but this one, no, I think this one stinks. Several months later, it was revealed that Osborne had funneled over $100,000 to a shadowy political consulting firm co-owned by his wife. You know, I thought PACs and candidates aren't supposed to talk to each other. So how are him and his wife doing this and they're actually talking to each other, right? The FCC, okay, wait a minute. The FCC made it easier for candidates to pay themselves in 2023, a move meant to give less wealthy folks an easier shot of running. Okay, I can see that part. Osborne, who has been endorsed by leaders of the Democrat Party, has received campaign cash from multiple Democrat campaigns, including Senator Elizabeth Warren. Has not been the only candidate to take advantage of this. However, while the payments are not illegal, critics have taken the issue with the lack of political experience with Osborne's wife, a former restaurant manager. Really? So his wife is a political consultant, but she's just a restaurant manager. I think he was just funneling money to her. Both across 20 and 24 and 26 campaigns, his wife, who previously manages Omaha Sports Pub, according to the Lincoln Journal-Star, has raked in at least $246,000 directly from the campaign and from the Working Class Heroes Fund. FEC filings reviewed by the Fox News show. The money is going both to Megan directly and her Wyoming-based political consulting firm, which has faced transparency concerns. Her affiliation was only to uncover after Osborne filed an admitted financial declaration. Wow. Legal but unethical. Okay. Man, we're already at an hour. I am not going to be able to finish everything. Well, I do want to put out this one. I didn't get to go over Texas scorecard. Man, there's a whole lot of stuff I didn't get to go over. I'll quickly go over this one right here. So New Hampshire, they have the poll that just came out for Democrat